Hey everyone, welcome to the March version of the Reading Research Recap. I'm recording in a different location today because if you stick around at the end of this video, I'm going to talk about these guys back here. So these are the Oxford English Dictionary, and it has to do with this book that I absolutely love that I'm going to recommend for any word nerd, book lover in your life. But before we get to that, let's jump into the research. So for this month, I chose the paper. It's like an introduction to a special issue in the Journal of Learning and Individual Differences on reading comprehension for students with reading disabilities. So why focus an entire journal issue on reading comprehension? Well, the authors give three reasons. The first one's pretty obvious. The NAEP scores are unacceptably low and they're not really increasing over time. Second, we know reading comprehension is really necessary for life success. But the third one was the most interesting, and I'm going to quote from their paper. So we question whether the pathways we have taken related to reading comprehension for the past 30 years are likely to provide the progress needed, particularly for students with significant reading problems. So basically they're saying we haven't figured out how to move the needle enough in this area. So the big takeaway from this article that I appreciated, because it's something I've been thinking about a lot, is the fact that reading comprehension, or I should say comprehension, not reading comprehension, linguistic comprehension and oral language skills should be thought of as a foundational skill. Oftentimes, we only think about phonological awareness or phonemic awareness, phonics, decoding as foundational skills, but we should really start thinking about how to improve. Let me back up. We should start thinking about linguistic comprehension and comprehension skills developmentally across time. How do we improve those skills? How do we teach them at really young ages? And so my son's 6 right now, and I think a really good example, his school's doing a really good job at this because what he does, and I saw this same idea talked about on the Facebook group, the Science of Reading Facebook group, where as soon as you teach a word, teach a student how to decode a word or sound it out, even if it's a very simple word, you can teach them the meaning, like teach them the vocabulary and give examples of how to use that in complex syntax as well. And one thing he does, he always comes home, he doesn't quite get it right. Think of a word like see, right? So he'll say, well, there's the letter C, then you can see something, and then there's sea, like the ocean. So he goes through the different meanings of it. And again, he's not the best at it, but he's trying. And I think that's a great thing they're doing about teaching the meaning and the differences, even though it sounds alike, it's not really the same word. A few other key takeaways. We know that word reading is critical for improving reading comprehension, but the approaches that work with younger students don't work as well. They're not as effective for older students. So we need more research with upper elementary students. Also, we just need to refine our reading comprehension models better and test a few different theories. For example, we don't know how to improve knowledge acquisition and knowledge transfer as well as we should. We also need better models of reading comprehension that take into account text features and reader characteristics. All right, so I said that I would tell you why I'm filming in this different location, and that's because of these guys. So this is the Oxford English Dictionary. So, okay, full disclosure, I'm a huge word nerd. I love words. I love the way they sound. I love all the different meanings. And one thing that I've wanted for a long time since I've actually known about it was the Oxford English Dictionary. And even though they look like encyclopedias, they're not. What they do, oh, and I should say my sister-in-law works at Oxford University Press. So thank you, Trisha, for getting us a great discount on these volumes. But they look like an encyclopedia because what they do is they go through the first usages and quotations of each word. So this is one example for the word water. You can see that one of the first written recordings of it was in the year 897. How cool is that? And they give the quote there in quotation. You could see it's a little bit misspelled. And then you can see all the subsequent sort of usages, variants of it, and meanings in these different quotes as well. And water takes up actually like several pages in the dictionary because there's so many different senses or variants of it. I'm talking about these though because I'm really wanting to talk about this book. So highly recommend this book. It came out a couple months ago. The Dictionary of Lost Words. It's the first novel, I believe, by this author, Pip Williams, and it's historical fiction, and it talks about how the characters kind of behind how the Oxford English Dictionary was created. And it's so good. So I highly recommend it. If you have any female word nerds that you know, it'd be a great gift. And I do say female just because the protagonist is it's through the lens of a young woman growing up who has a part in creating the dictionaries. All right, so that's all that I have for the March edition of the recap, and I'll see you guys in April. All right, just kidding, everyone. So I'm still here and I'm still talking about words and dictionaries because after I filmed that first segment, the Wall Street Journal put out an article that's really cool, and it's about the Merriam-Webster, the American version, not the Oxford English Dictionary, and it actually compares the two. So it's called How We the People Built American English, and it's like a full-page segment on the inside. I don't know how to share it because it's behind a paywall, but I'll just summarize it here real quick for you guys and share a few of my favorite quotes from it. Unlike the Oxford English Dictionary, which took a long time and a lot of people to create, Noah Webster created his dictionary relatively quickly, changing the spelling of words along the way, so getting rid of the U in color and the E at the end of center. And he eventually sold it to the Merriam brothers, so that's why it's known as the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, and it was very much a business to them, so they still sell thousands of copies each year. So what's really cool, though, is the fight between Jefferson and Adams way before Webster created his dictionary. If you've watched the miniseries about Adams with Paul Giamatti, you know that Adams and Jefferson fought about a lot of different things. But this fight was one that I didn't know about. So the fight boiled down to this. Adams wanted an academy to oversee and protect the English language, to keep it pure, whereas Jefferson was on the side of openness. I think it's pretty fair to say that Jefferson won that fight. We don't have an academy that oversees English. And as a University of Virginia alum, I couldn't resist ending with this quote from TJ, or a quote about TJ, I should say, from the author. So Jefferson believed that purists oppose what was most beautiful in a language, its innovative drive. For Jefferson, that drive was what gave English its nerve, its beauty, its copiousness. Okay, so that really was the last segment this time, and I'll see you guys in April.